Hello, welcome to Trekking Through Trek. This is a visual podcast where we warp through, or in this case, we're on thrusters only, let's be honest, every episode of Star Trek until we all eventually sail on to Sto-Vo Kor. I'm your host, Nick Wright, and I'd like to introduce my co-hosts this week, Peter Stolmeyer, Kim Thompson, Chris Wright, and James Penta.
Hello.
All right, so this is our pilot episode, and honestly, we were supposed to get started like, what, an hour and 15 minutes ago?
Who's counting?
We're right on time. Yeah, that's fine. We're doing fine. I mean, honestly, that's probably good for starting something like this. Anytime you start something creative, you're going to have to put up with a lot of technical difficulties before you really get it together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I want to talk about first why we're here talking about Star Trek. And for myself, like I've been a Star Trek fan since I was 12. I actually started with some of the TOS movies, and then I started watching Next Generation. Funny enough, on the episode Rascals, which was extremely appropriate because that's the one where they got turned into 12-year-olds, and I was 12, so I'm like the perfect demographic for that. I used to be active in the old pre-internet BBS forums. I was a total know-it-all 14-year-old, and I wish I could find those messages. But I kind of lost track of it eventually because, in the 90s, when you miss an episode and you haven't, set your VCR to record it properly, you might lose track of it for a good long while. I finally came back to it big time in the 2000s. I became a mod of the Star Trek community on LiveJournal, which is some more old school cred. And like a few of us here, I've also been involved with DragonCon with Trek Track. So yeah, I'm just kind of Star Trek's my main fandom. So I'm really excited to finally get here and be able to talk about it with you guys. Peter, you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, sure. My name is Peter Stolmeyer. I'm a big Star Trek fan as well. I've said in the past that if I was any more into Star Trek, I would literally be working on the show. Like I've maxed that particular XP out. I'm glad that you said it the way you did because I don't think I've ever told the story about how far back into Trek I go. My dad introduced it to me when it was just Star Trek, and it would have been somewhere around 1983, like that. He was like, I would remember distinctly because we had the Betamax tape player, but it wasn't working at the time. So they said, okay, you can watch your dad's favorite show if you promise to be quiet. And then I sat down and I watched it, and it was definitely Star Trek. And I've been into it literally ever since. Like it has never left my mind since then. I watched Next Gen on the first day it premiered. I had this big newspaper article in black and white of the whole crew, and I was all excited about it and stuff. And I kept looking at it and checking the date, making sure. And I'm sure I missed episodes at some point, but not intentionally. I just made out of my way to watch it, and I've never not watched it except for one time, which maybe later in the podcast, some other time, I'll mention those stories about how I missed a small window of Trek.
Yeah, that's my problem. I'm a completionist. So if I miss one episode, like even though these were episodic, like even back in the 90s, we were watching episodic Star Trek. Like if I missed an episode, I was like, well, damn, now I may as well not watch the rest of it because I don't know what's going on. What if they referenced something that happened on that episode? I'm screwed.
Which is good for the theme of this whole thing, since I was the one that suggested that we watch it out of order. And we just went to the one that's meta about the show.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's an interesting choice to eventually, like, assuming that we're all still around and still doing this, we're going to go through every single episode of Star Trek. So that'd be great, and it'll take us decades. But yeah, starting with Lower Decks is an interesting choice. But there's a little bit more reason behind that, and we'll get to that a little bit later with James's introduction. But for now, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. I started watching Star Trek, The Next Generation at home, and my parents brought home the movies for me to watch. So I watched the movies a bunch when I was a kid, like the original Star Trek movies. And then I started watching Next Gen heavily when it was syndicated because it would be on right as I got off the bus. So I would rush home. I was a latchkey kid. It was me for like 2-3 hours, and I would watch whatever syndicated episode each day. And so that was where I started. I finished Next Gen. We watched the pilot, or the finale as a family, and it was a beautiful, crying, tear-filled night. And I watched the first season of Deep Space Nine, and I really wish I had continued it, because when I revisited it as an adult, wow, it got a whole lot better than that first season. And I've been watching all of the Star Trek that has come on ever since.
Nice. Yeah, I was. That's how I caught up when I started in season 6 of Next Gen. I was watching the reruns, and they would come on every night at 10:30. So I'm like a kid. I'm supposed to be getting to bed. I go to my room 10:30, wait until the nightly news goes off, and then I'd stay up another hour watching Next Gen and just catch up that way. So I stayed up until 11:30. I think I was getting up at like 5:30 or something to go to school. So like that's how I'll have a lot of the problems that I have today, I think, because I didn't get enough sleep. So I was watching Star Trek. My brain was not able to develop anymore.
Wow, this is a lot better than season 1 led me to believe is a blanket Star Trek statement.
That's very true.
Yes.
Yeah, DS9 hit you up front with some of the Bajoran religious politics. So yeah, it was too real. It was too real for me.
Yeah.
So okay, Chris. Oh, 4.
Or
Four.
You started really young, didn't you? I mean, you were 3. It was 87. Were you? Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's how I started. Like I said, I started with 6, and then I went back and watched the reruns. And I do remember it really did it blow your mind after you got to the last episode and it started over with the Naked Now or they can counter at Farpoint and the Naked Now. It's like, what the heck's going on with this show? Yeah, it's a big difference. Like you learn to appreciate that the later seasons are much better later on. I mean, Encounter at Farpoint was fun, but it definitely got better as it got on. Okay, James.
So yeah, I actually got my first exposure to Star Trek really early on because my aunt was a huge Trekkie before that was really a thing, and there was no one else in our family that even knew what Star Trek was. And so when I was old enough to be able to comprehend things, she was like, great, somebody who I can watch this show with and talk about. So
nice.
So I've been watching the original series stuff since before I can even form memories. And so I couldn't tell you anything that happened in a particular episode, but I definitely remember the trouble with tribbles because I just thought that they were cute because when you're 2 or 3 years old, what else are you gonna think?
Right.
But I remember vividly when we went to the theater to see Star Trek 3. And I just remember crying when Spock dies at the end, and yeah, so that definitely kind of got me into it. But I didn't really see any of the rest of the original series in any capacity. Kept on the movies for a good bit. and then really got into Next Generation because, like Kim was saying, like it was on right after school. So it's like, well, what else are you going to watch? Like, so I definitely got into TNG. But if I like go back and do the numbers, I probably didn't see even like half of the episodes. But I do remember the finale and like when they started transitioning into the movies. And then I kind of fell off after that. I didn't watch DS9. I watched like the first season of Voyager, and like we were saying, didn't grab me. First seasons and all that, but and then that's been it. Like I have not touched Trek at all since that first season of Voyager. So yeah, I'm definitely like out of all of us, like the kind of the least involved in the franchise.
It's funny because James helps me out. He is my brother. He helps me out with anything that I'm trying to do, and 90% of the time, what I'm trying to do is Star Trek. So he has not been outside the fandom. He's like a pillar of the fandom without ever seeing the show, which is one of the reasons we're really excited to have him with us, so we can get his procedure. Because there's never time when I'll do a joke about the planet of galactic peace from Star Trek V, and everybody in the audience will laugh, and he'll never have the chance to go, what was that? So that's the fun part. He will now be able to ask Star Trek questions as they happen in the order they're supposed to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, and we wanted to go through every episode, and we had some discussions about, well, what do we do? Do we do just like random ones and like see, maybe we'll get some that he hasn't seen, some that he has seen. But now starting with Lower Decks seemed to kind of crystallize as the idea that we wanted to go with, because it is kind of a nice send up of all the series. It has elements from everything. It has stuff that even people who don't watch Star Trek at all are going to be familiar with. Some of the things, like, they'll reference Kirk and Spock and everything, but it's also just, a good show. It's got things going for it itself. It's got good comedy. It's got good animation. It's got its problems. Once again, like everything, some of the first season episodes are a little rough. But it, like every other Star Trek show, it's going to grow the beard. And I think lately we've seen that happen earlier on the series than it has in the previous times.
Yeah, they take a lot of notes recently, but I'd have to say I'm a little bit contrary to what you're saying for Lower Decks. It's practically like I wrote it. I mean, like me and Mike McMahon, there's no way that if we met, we would be like bitter rivals, because he's writing this. He says he's writing it for him, but he's really writing it for me, because every time he writes something that hits, I'm just like, yes, finally somebody gets it.
I'm wondering if maybe it's just the first episode that I have issues with, and then after that, it's going to be completely hunky dory.
Because
we'll get into the specifics of that pretty soon. But let's talk about Lower Decks. Like, what were your first impressions of it before it came out? Because I know a lot of people were, they really latched on to the whole, oh, it's Rick and Morty in space, or it's Star Trek Family Guy or something like that. I wasn't expecting that. I did not have any real solid expectations going into it. I just kind of wanted to sit back and see what they did with it, and I was very, very happy with what they did.
I was definitely scared. I was scared that it would be too irreverent for the seriousness. And I know that Star Trek gets super silly. Like, I know this. But I was worried that they would go to Rick and Morty. And that's TOO, to Rick and Morty. But I was pleasantly surprised that I don't think they did. Like, yes, it's a more simplistic animation style, but I feel like that's almost the end of the comparison that you can make, because more than that, it's just, I don't know, it's Star Trek.
I agree with that, because one of the concerns was that Mike McMahon also did Solar Opposites, which is more irreverent than Rick and Morty. So it's
kind
amazing.
of brutal.
Yeah, not in a bad way. Solar Opposites is great, but if they tried that in Star Trek, it would have broken Star Trek, because they use a ray for everything. Like, they will just shoot you with a ray, literally a plot ray that will fix things. So I was afraid they were going to do that, and then I would have just been like, oh no, well.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I remember when I saw like the original like commercials and things, I was just like, like you were saying, like, oh, it's like Rick and Morty, but on Star Trek. And, like at least because all I've seen so far is this first episode. It doesn't seem too far off. There's a lot of Rick and Morty-ness going on.
Yeah, that sounds
it's actually
great... Go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually a good point, because we're going to make the argument as to why it's not like Rick and Morty in a minute. This very first scene, something you had mentioned earlier, Nick, was that only this first scene is off-putting to me. The rest of the show, every frame of the rest of the show is great. So we're about to talk about the very scene that even gets even close and why we think it's different.
Exactly. All right, so here comes the other opportunity for technical difficulties to crash this whole ship. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got, this is the first time I've hosted a podcast or anything like this, so I don't have a lot of cool visuals, but I was able to at least get some slides going on. So we'll have those going on, and when we want to talk about it, we'll zoom into it. When it starts off, we kind of get this traditional, like, Star Trek-y kind of like establishment shots. They're on a space station. You get a couple of shots of the ship, which, the ship design's pretty cool, I got to say. Like, that's exactly what I would kind of expected from a show like this. It's like a solid, like, mid-tier vessel. It's not like your Enterprises, Galaxy class, Excelsior class stuff. I don't know. Do you guys have any opinions on the design of the ship?
I liked that it was different than I had previously seen in the other like big episodes, and I like the idea. Did they confirm this, that it has the yellow stripe because it is more an engineering ship than it is a science or an exploratory?
Right. Yeah, so just like in TOS, the red shirt was the guy that was just kind of the dude in the background. The yellow shirt's like that in TNG. So this is literally a yellow shirt ship flying around.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I don't like it. It really bothers me that no, not that part. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. I meant the ship. the little engine room connected to the warp nacelles. I just don't. I hate it. I wish it wasn't there, because to me the warp nacelles have always felt like the wheels, like they're jet engines on a plane. They're supposed to be so dangerous that they stick them way out of the ship to create that warp bubble. I won't even get into the technobabble of in-universe, out-of-universe. That's what it's supposed to do. So that looks to me like they built a car and then they put an extra axle on the wheels. An extra axle. Wow, that's a great idea. Let's do that. I'm just not a fan. If I could, even now, I would go in and say, change that.
What's funny is that I had never noticed that until you pointed it out. And I'm thinking about the ships of this, sort that we've seen, like in Next Gen and everything else. They didn't have anything like that between the nacelles. Yeah, interesting.
And if you can indulge the in-universe thing for just a second, there is no safe way to go there. None.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
If something goes wrong, you are absolutely boned. It's like, imagine a submarine, and then there was another little room between the two propellers. Like, how are you supposed to...
Beam me to the danger zone.
Beaming is the only... If the only way to get somewhere is to take your molecules and reassemble them on the other side, that's literally the only way. In an emergency, have fun staying where you're at.
Yeah.
But you could technically go down the nacelles through the radiation and over. Like, I have a thing about sci-fi OSHA, and there is none in this particular design.
That is true. There is none.
Yeah, well, as we'll see later on in the episode, they sleep in a hallway too. So there's lots of lots of problems.
I love the level of minutia that you guys just all got into with this ship, because when I look at it, I'm just like, oh, it's the Enterprise.
Somebody folded up the Enterprise like a transformer.
I didn't know that they made the show on the Enterprise.
That is. Yes, that is an interesting distinction.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And as we're seeing these, opening shots and everything, Boimler is doing his, pretend captain's log, which, I'm not sure why Boimler gets, singled out for this, because everybody does their logs. Like, Worf's coming back at some point from a contest. He's like, I was eliminated in the last round. I have no honor. So, like, everybody does personal logs, not just poems, but
Yeah,
but it's because he says captain's log in his.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he said it's a captain's log, right? And he's doing the voice too.
Yeah.
Let's assume this is not his log. So he is in that closet pretending to do a log, which is additional work to the actual log he actually does.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is very much a Boimler thing to do, and that is very much the kid who is trying way too hard because they were always told that they're not good enough, and they're like, just I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I relate with him way too much.
Gold star for Boims. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the power of positive thinking. So he's definitely got it. So he's talking about the bridge crew. You got if you had something else to add, Peter.
I was just going to point out to James that that's not actually an invalid fear. If Boimler isn't careful, no matter what he does, and if he doesn't like get it, he could end up literally as a 60-year-old like lieutenant, like just doing the same thing day after day, and it could sneak up on you. I'm just letting you know because you don't know that actually could happen to him if he does not keep his eye on the prize. So it's a real danger, not something that Boimler's imagining.
That is absolutely true.
Thanks for pointing it out, since the only exposure I have is just all the characters become captains at some point.
That's because those are the ones we're following. Those are the ones that have good stories behind them.
We don't only the sharpest people.
We don't follow Lieutenant J.G. Hertzler from, who cleans up after cetacean ops.
I think it's also interesting, like that's the whole point of this show is you're not watching the people who necessarily are going to become captains. Maybe they will, but these are the janitors. These are the people who aren't in the forefront of the action. And the fact that you see, it's like in this episode, you can almost see, like, yes, I could totally see a next gen episode surrounding the bridge crew while they go through the steps to contain this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't focus on that because while the bridge crew is important, they're not the point of the show.
It's a little disappointing to me that there are so many bullshit jobs that still need to be done in the 24th century. Like, I would expect that you shouldn't have to send somebody in to clean out the holodeck. Clean out the holodeck filter traps. Like it's a grease trap at the local deli.
It does seem like that should go directly into the applicator units.
Okay,
yeah,
but you're gonna say that no matter what. So
yeah,
I'm
entertained.
The writers of the show, they have to have. There are definitely things on these shows that are definitely done by people in the lower decks, right? And so they have to make up something, and they're just going to take some job they've done in the past and add a space to the front of it and make it the thing. Mm-hmm. And there was no way you guys were going to do that. We're skipping ahead a little bit. Did they do the holodeck cleaning in this?
No. I'm just I'm pointing out just as a general example. That was the first thing that came to mind. Of things that could be done on a ship that somebody might have to do, and I'm kind of disappointed because, in Discovery and some other shows, they've come out and said, "Oh, the ship cleans itself for you. What are you doing?" And I'm going to make. Why do we have guys cleaning?
I'm going to make the argument that holodeck isn't what it appears. They did it so that they did it in a way so you went, I get it. It's a sex joke. I get it. But it's not what she was actually doing. So I will make that argument when the scene comes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So it does introduce the bridge crew, which it's kind of funny that we see the bridge crew before we see our lower deckers. But it's as Bradward is going about his speech and he's extolling their virtues and everything. They did do something that was a very neat joke that I enjoyed a lot. They stopped this scene on a freeze frame as a transition, and it's the kind of freeze frame. It's the kind of freeze frame that you get when you're watching a DVR, when you're watching either DVR or streaming, and you pause it just at the right moment, and everybody's like, it's like in between one motion and the other. And like this joke goes by so fast that like I didn't really even appreciate it until watching it again recently.
They do that a lot on this show. The kind of thing that would be easy to do on Discovery because they would just find the frame and freeze it. They take the time to animate stuff like that on this show all the time.
Yep.
Like they go out of their way to make the ship, which is CG, they go out of their way to use the same shots over and over again and make it look like a model. That's intentional. They put effort into the laziness.
Yeah. And that's one of the first signs you get that the people that are making the show are fans. Like they know they know you're doing that. They know when you pause something and somebody's got a funny face, you're like, oh, that's great. I'll be right back. I'm going to the bathroom. so yeah, you can tell that you're kind of in good hands because they're as big of a fans as you are.
Mm-hmm.
But then we actually do get to get introduced to Boims and Mariner. And here's Boimler doing his log. Shut off in a room doing a log. So don't come in. I'm doing a log.
Let's be honest. That's a closet.
yeah. And once again, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, he doesn't have his own quarters to do, so I guess he finds wherever he can do. But this is probably getting into the Rick and Morty-ishness of it. This whole first scene where Mariner's, clearly drunk and giving Boimler a hard time. That whole thing is, the most Rick and Morty I think this show ever gets. Just because it's very fast paced, like there's, 1,000 words a minute coming at you. And you're like, yeah. Yeah. And then to like playing with the Romulan, was it Romulan whiskey or what was it, something different?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, Peter,
was there any sort of like reference when she was commenting on the color? She thought it was going to be a different color than blue.
But she thought it would be green, and no, it's a lovely blue. So I think the Romulan ale is the one that's green, right?
No, Romulan ale is also blue.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so here's the weird part.
Green?
They switched it from ale to whiskey on purpose, and they did it to bother me. Because I'm serious. This is the first scene, and I'm watching to see if they are paying attention. And the first thing they mess up is one of the most classic references to Trek, period, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff, that Romulan ale. That's always ale, but that doesn't mean they can't make whiskey too. So this is a test to me.
That's
they are messing with people like me, going, why couldn't they make whiskey as well? You can't complain about this. You don't know. We can make our own canon. But the actual joke here is that Romulan ale is always blue, but everything else about a Romulan is green. There is no other blue in Romulan, period. It's always green. And the reason it was blue is because it was introduced in the original show and they used bright colors. So they introduced Romulan ale as blue in 1966. But she comments on it just because why is it blue? That is a good question. But yeah, they made it whiskey instead of ale as a test. Like they're trying to ditch the people that won't be satisfied ever. They're keeping the people that'll go, well, I guess it could be whiskey. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just going to go ahead and cut you guys off at the beginning. Oh, yeah. And then, she's playing with a Betleth, which,
Don't do while drunk.
That's what you do when you're drunk.
No. But
I'm not going to linger on this one.
So I
want
this is a good point to mention. Like yes, I see where people are talking about with the pacing and that, oh no, there are real world consequences, like ow, that's his leg, and things like that are similar to Rick and Morty. But if you watch other modern day cartoons, it's not just Rick and Morty. Cartoons go by quicker now. The speaking parts are faster. It's not like it was when we grew up. And I don't think that's inherently like Rick and Morty-ish. I think that's just modern television-ish.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Rick and Morty, a show I do like, by the way. I just don't want my Star Trek to be Rick and Morty. For example, they did the Avengers, and I hated that episode because I like it when people are competent, and I think that they do, the cynicism that no one can be is just ridiculous, and I don't want that in any Trek. So this is the only scene, literally the only scene that I would rather have stricken from the show altogether, and that is because I want to repeat what she did. She busted into this guy when he's having a private moment, and he has no quarters of his own. She knows this. She walked in, grabbed a rusty batleth, and almost cut his leg off. Definitely cut his artery, right? If they weren't on this ship, he would be dead. She got drunk and stabbed him. That is not healthy behavior, period. That should be the end of her She should be gone. I'm serious. Compared to the rest of the show, she never gets so drunk that she cuts somebody's leg off ever again.
Yeah.
So
I think, it started me with kind of a bad impression of Mariner, but as even this episode goes on, I was like, oh, I like her a lot. It's like, so it's really weird to like they kneecap their main character in the very few first seconds, but
I say they kneecap their whole
development.
show.
Why not?
They kneecap their whole show in the first one. It's not just Mariner. I blame literally everyone on this show is dangerously, stupidly incompetent. I hate it in this scene. Everyone, because they sutured her up and let her go. No, they wouldn't just throw her in the brig for a minute. She'd be gone. So this is the only scene that does that. And the farther we get away from it, the stupider it seems. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they come back and say this never happened. Like they actually retcon it for real. Because they're like, why would I do that? That's stupid. And then they would like address it at some point. It's not like it bothers me all day. I'm just saying this is the only scene that's like Rick and Morty where they don't take things seriously. And is why, as an example, since something else is like it, why the show is not like Rick and Morty.
Yeah, she's going to be like, I never stabbed your leg. You had a xenovirus that day. You were hallucinating.
Seems legit. I think they did it this way to very quickly establish that this is not the same competent people that are on the Enterprise. Yeah. This is not the same like competent people who are sometimes on Voyager. Or on
I'm glad you caveated
it. Like these are the people who do mess up, and sometimes their mess ups are big, but other times, I don't know, Doc will wave the light over it. It'll be
wave a light over it.
That is,
which is a great episode. Great line from this episode for sure.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, what did he do? He beamed to medical. The doc was cranky at him and waved a light over it, and he's fine. Like they don't even address that.
Since
it's
I'm
just
cynical about the scene.
Immediately transitions. Go ahead.
I'm cynical about the take. I don't follow you. What I think happened was that they made this in order to sell it to the comedy people, and that they went way out there to make them satisfied that this was going to be the kind of comedy they wanted, and then they immediately left it behind. The Orville effect, if you will. The first thing they did was exactly what the people wanted, and they said, great, good job, Johnson, and they left. Actually, he has a name like that. Good job, man, and then left. And then they never looked again because they saw the first 5 minutes, like the old VHS movies, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. There are really bad VHS movies with really amazing 15 minutes. And then as soon as that 15 minutes is over, they just sit in a room and talk for another hour and a half. That's exactly what this is. So this is not... Yeah. This was done cynically. It was done on purpose so that the right people would leave them alone.
Yeah. I will say that there are, some other wild moments that happen in this episode for sure. Like this whole episode is kind of a wilder experience than the rest of the show. And the rest of the show gets wild, but it uses it strategically. So here, I think you're right that this was something that they're like, oh yeah, we need to really make sure that we're capitalizing on this, what everybody's perceiving as a new form of humor. And show that we're up to date and everything, and we're not anything like Star Trek the Animated Series.
I wouldn't be so hard on this if there was a couple of changes. So that's how specific I am. The batleth is rusty with what we don't even know, and that is a mortal wound that would kill somebody. So if she had stabbed him in the shoulder with a clean batleth, I probably wouldn't be so bitter. Also, if this is the way the show was, but because it's not, and she doesn't do this kind of thing, I pointed out as the only scene I have any criticisms on. The rest of the show, I'm pretty much good with.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm pretty sure that's
generally agreeing.
Blood, not rust, but point taken.
I could have sworn it was rusty. It was blood. Oh my god! You want hepatitis space? This is how you get hepatitis S.
The light over it.
Yeah. You guys managed to make this scene worse. Good job.
It kind of,
yeah.
I mean, it kind of looks like prune juice stains to me. So, these Klingons, it very well could be.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that one enough. So we get Tendi is introduced. Yeah, Devana Tendi.
I love Tendi.
She's great. Yeah. I think everybody loves Tendi.
Yeah, she's just so bubbly and excited and happy.
Yeah, and she's this is well what they would call institutionalized format for a show, and most Star Treks are because you're working with people. But this character is the Naif, and that's the new person that comes in, and you get to get introduced to this world through her eyes. Because you've got all these other characters, they've already been there. You can't really, you can't really learn anything as an audience by following Boimler and Mariner around for too long. You got to have some different eyes on it. So I think that was a pretty good use of her.
It's the fish out of water technique.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to mention ever so briefly the genius of the intro, by the way, because you would skip that. I get why.
I did, yeah.
Everything about that intro is just like it's just like Voyager, but slightly bad. So they fly a little too close to the sun, and they fly up and they see a battle, and they go nope.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Like I felt like there wasn't any way to really communicate that with stills.
I like it. Is all I'm saying. I
like it too. I liked it a lot.
Every scene is just as epic as it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
but just oh my god, like just getting to the end of the credits is work for these
flying along. Yeah, it's pretty great. And then the battle that they've come across between the Romulans and the Borg, and they're like, peace out. We're not part of that. They got it handled. It'll be fine. Yeah, so that's awesome. And so Tendy's kind of like Boimler, and especially in the beginning, just with her enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And then this guy, of course, gives the iconic line of "Move along, lower decks."
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's true. She seems, a little more genuine, I think, than Boimler. Like, Boimler's got a lot of ambitions, and that's very clear about. That's what his deal is. She's just out there because she loves it. Like she loves everything about this place, which is really cool. And it's just kind of refreshing to have a character like that.
I mentioned that there is a danger. If you're not careful, you will find yourself 40, 60 years old as a 2-pip lieutenant. And her reaction, I could hear it in my head, was going, "Oh, that's great. You mean I can 50 years when I'm
cartography as a lieutenant? That's awesome."
Yeah, so that's the difference between the two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, that guy that says "move along lower decks" as if he's not is kind of an interesting.
Yeah. Is he like a lieutenant or something? Yeah, he's a lieutenant. So I mean, he's not one of the main guys. He's not a bridge officer. I don't know his name. Like it took me a long time to learn the bridge officers' names, and he's not one of them.
I think when you get promoted to lieutenant, you move out of how do you say this politely? The barracks.
Yeah, the hall. Yeah.
Oh, it being the Navy, they're going to have a weird name for it. Like the Schlugalug or something.
Between the bulkheads or whatever.
Yeah.
So the first time, Tendi goes to Boimler to, because he's her liaison or whatever, and he's dealing with some hot bananas out of the replicator. Which we have a comment. We have a comment about this, but we'll put it in the spoiler zone, which is going to come later in the show.
Right. So. We're going to talk about what we want, and we'll talk about anything. But if there's a new show, we won't talk about that right away. And coincidentally, in our first episode, there's a new show, so we'll come to that.
Yeah.
However, this is worth pointing out. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's going to be very clear when we go to spoiler zone, so you don't have to worry about it. If you see red, then turn back, unless you've already seen these stuff.
But non-spoiler related is just the reference that they're making here, which makes perfect sense to me. This is when it starts getting into stuff that I'm like down for. I get it. These are things I actively think about and have thought about for 40 years, which is he says tea Earl Grey hot. Why does he say that? It's because he programmed in the algorithm for it. Weirdly enough, and I use Fitbit now, and I programmed in my own tea because I had sugar in my tea, and I just wanted a one quick click button. I needed to name it something. So as a joke, I named it tea Earl Grey hot. So now when I say that, the program knows what I mean. So there is a moment where Fitbit would have no idea what I'm talking about. It seems like it would, but it wouldn't. And it also makes sense that you can order anything at any temperature you want. So for whatever reason, this thing is stuck on bananas, yellow, hot. and it's just spitting out hot bananas because you can totally do that. So that's the actual reference they're making. They're joking that Picard has to specify that it's hot tea.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I imagine like if you just said banana, like it would give you a room temperature banana. Like they've got to have some kind of rudimentary, like, user experience friendliness to it.
Maybe in the future, hot bananas are just way more appealing.
Hey, yeah. Hot bananas are the future.
I saw a meme related to this the other day of Beverly Crusher saying, let me know if it gets a little hot. And the computer said, what do you mean? Because she was right next to a star. And she said like 10,000 Kelvin. And so it recorded that as hot. So the next time Picard ordered...
Tea, Earl Grey, 10,000 Kelvin.
Hot bananas, I love it. I really do. I love the fact that they made bananas hot has a malfunction. That makes perfect sense.
That is great. Yeah. And that's another joke that goes by so quick that you don't even really think about it too much, but it's a good one. So yeah,
not that all the time.
I thought about it recently for sure. So yeah, and at this point, Mariner's kind of already, she's clearly not drunk anymore, which makes a big difference. And like she's still kind of over the top, and that's the way her character is. But yeah, she's definitely a lot more likable after the intro.
Yeah. And honestly, I think over the course of the whole episode really shows you who she is and what she really cares about. She's not just a throwaway character. Her name is first in the credits for a reason.
Yeah.
And just like we pointed out, Boimler really does have to put the effort in. She has to do the opposite. If she wants to stay an ensign, she has to put the effort in to make that happen. So that makes her a good foil for him because they are both very passionate about their goals, and their goals are this way. So she knows how to become a captain because she's been avoiding it this whole time.
Yeah, that's one of the first things she says. Like, she's had, I think, was 5 ships that she's been on already. And apparently a station that we find out later on. But yeah, that's a pretty long career, honestly, already.
I get this feeling just looking at her, though, is that she is Wesley Crusher. Like, Wesley was not unusual in any way. So there are these boy geniuses that end up being ensigns when they're, God, how old was he? Like 16? He was in full uniform before he was 18. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh God, was he supposed to be that young? Was he 12 in like Encounter at Farpoint?
That's a good question.
He makes ensign within 3 years. So that's what she was on, that same career path. And there are lots of people that go through that and come out the other side the best captains anyone in the world has ever seen. But she decided she wanted to be that. Move on, Lower Decks. She wanted to be that guy, and she had to make steps to make sure that happened. I mean, I'm not even talking about spoilers. I get that feeling from her immediately. As soon as she puts the bat'leth down, I totally grok what her whole deal is, and I love it. I think it's freaking brilliant.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm this kind of person, he was 15.
Okay.
He
was
17. So he was
15 in Encounter at Farpoint?
That's what Memory Alpha says.
Okay. All right. He was a late bloomer like I was then.
But that's what it seemed to imply.
He that means that he was just before 18 when he put his real uniform on for the first time. That is bananas. That's steamed bananas right there. And I guarantee you that same thing happened to Mariner. I don't need to see it on screen. I know it did. She was younger. I promise you she was younger. She was 12. She probably had space braces in, and she was freaking... She probably made lieutenant for the first time when she was 15.
Oh, yeah. She just didn't have a traveler to go off and, in the candy van with, as Will likes to say. She probably does. Like, there's a lot of stuff that she keeps on admitting that she knows. Yeah. All right, so we do get introduced to things. Yeah, we get introduced to Rutherford briefly. I didn't remember that he's only been cybernetically enhanced for a couple weeks at this point.
Yeah,
which is
and it's still set on the Vulcan settings.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that joke doesn't get explained until the next time that we see him. Like in this one, he's just like not having emotions.
Yeah.
And then later you're like, oh, It's a Vulcan cyborg implant. That's why.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, no,
Like-
because I saw it because he has a Vulcan ear. I knew
He does.
immediately that's what was
Yeah,
happening.
he does.
It's the little details that you don't necessarily see right away.
Not
I
not
kinda wish they
depicted in
would
this
change
slide.
Mhm.
I didn't even notice it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm saying legit. I noticed when I saw it. It's like, okay, he has a Vulcan implant.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and it's going to regulate his emotions differently, and he just got it, which is why it's like that.
And Rutherford's another kind of Tindy-esque character. He's just like, he's very excited to be there and excited to do stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that's really nice to have some genuine passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wants
I
to
agree.
climb into the Jeffries tubes and never come out, and I can
Yeah.
I can understand that. Everybody, it is implied that people like Geordi and Data are like that across the board when it comes to engineering. So, I also want to give a shout out to the actor. I didn't recognize him in the million of things he was in until he was in Loki, and he stole the show when he was in Loki, basically playing Rutherford. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I'm like, okay, if they ever do live action, they have the actor ready to go because he's freaking great.
Yeah, he is. He's I think I first saw him and recognized who he was watching The Good Place.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's
Oh, yeah.
fantastic in everything he does.
Was it Pillboy? Was his name?
Boy, yep.
Okay, yeah. Eugene Cordero. Yeah, so yeah, all these actors are great. Like they really did, and this is something that Leo's fond of saying, is that they really look like they cast them so that they could use them for live action if they needed to.
Yeah.
I never noticed before, but you're right. Yeah, that
very much resemble their characters. Like even the actor that plays Tindy, she's short. It's like
I think I was surprised, which I know we're not talking about Prodigy, but seeing this and seeing how easily they could cast their actors as in real life people, I think I was surprised that they didn't cast more children in Prodigy. But long-term goals versus short-term goals, I don't know.
Children are also hard to work with sometimes.
Oh, details of the industry.
The only actor I've seen on that show was one that plays Ruck, and I was amazed that she was more similar to Mixie, my little puppy, than she was a full-grown person. I was like, wow, you have
she's like 12.
Yeah, but they had her with the the way they interview people. So they've got the space background for Prodigy, and they've got her all labbed up and stuff. And she was talking all professional, but she was like this big. I can put you in my pocket. You guys really did cast the right person for this. It's crazy. But that's the only person I've seen. So I don't know what anybody else looks like. So I need to go back and look and see how much they look like their characters.
I mean, they're adults. That's the end of that statement. They're adult voice actors.
Yeah, so the only one that I've seen was definitely not.
I think she is one of the only ones who is that young.
Yeah, I just assumed when I saw her, I just assumed that everybody was in a nursery. This is news to me. I didn't look it up.
Yeah, so after that they go, and like, of course, Boimler wants to take her and show her like the warp core and all the official stuff.
Yeah,
and Mariner's like, "No, let's go to the holodeck. Everything above this level is worthless." And then Boimler's like, "Except the bar. You like the bar?" He's like, "Yeah, the bar's good, but everything else."
Yeah, I don't know. Mariner has some boundary issues. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, she does what she does.
Yeah.
Although this is another good moment of really getting kind of grokking the kind of thing I want to see. Because, even if I was in that universe, I would want to see the warp core. I once got, as part of a client thing, I was once able to tour a corrugated cardboard factory. I was down. I was 100% down to see them make this corrugated cardboard. So if I was on any ship and they were like, "Do you want to go see the warp core?" I'd be like, "Yeah. Can we go by Jeffries tube, please?" It is just something I am into personally. So, like, I didn't feel like I was being made fun of. I thought that they really got what it was to be a lower decks of Starfleet on that.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that's interesting here is like they take Tindy to a random beach in Hawaii, and Tindy's like, what's this stuff? I'm like, why does Tendi not know what sand is? Do they not have sand on Orion?
They might not have sand where she's from. She
Yeah,
might be
that's
very
true.
sheltered. She might be upper class. We don't know a lot about Tendi's
That's
background
true.
right now.
That is, yeah, that's a good point, because also, like, that's actually supported by the next thing that she does is, like, they ask her where she wants to go, and she wants to go to this center on Orion. She's like, I never got a chance to go there before I left. So you could be right. Maybe she's had a very sheltered life, and she's only been
I would
focusing
guess
Or
on
maybe
spaceborne,
she's a
actually.
ship baby and
I think
grew
she's
up on a
spaceborne.
ship.
Although I will tell you something just weirdly coincidental. I've been going on a lot of walks lately, and I went to the nature park. Whenever I can, I like to do the really nice nature trails here in Conyers, Georgia. And I like to pretend, it's weird circular logic, but I like to pretend that I'm on a ship taking a break in a holodeck.
Oh, that's
which I kind
great.
of am, because I'm leaving
love
my
that.
house. I'm leaving my house, but I also like to pretend I'm really on a spaceship as I walk. But weirdly enough, Gabby came with me, and we don't normally go off the trail, but there was this little trail going off to the riverbank, and we went. And weirdly enough, there was sand there, and I did exactly that. I was like, "Why is there sand here? That's weird." Because Georgia has clay, and I'm from Florida, where everything is sand. Just there is no ground in Florida for real. It is all sand. I didn't know what clay really was until I moved here and understood that. Oh, it comes out of the ground. I can actually just dig up dirt. I see it on TV, but I didn't know what it was. So yesterday, I was literally doing what she was doing. Why is there sand here? Only on this one part of the bank. That's freaking weird. So just giving you a real world comparison. It can happen.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of interesting possibilities with that. It's like, if you don't know anything about that character, it's like, well, what the hell does she know about sand?
Also, shout out because Boimler and Anakin Skywalker have something in common.
Yeah. It gets in everything.
Can't hear you, Peter.
You muted yourself.
Sorry, I've been muting it because I'm also eating a cookie. I said that I am very mean on the prequels, but that line I always thought was not fair because I also do not like sand. It is coarse. It does get everywhere. I don't like it. So me and Darth Vader have something in common.
Same.
So here's the shot where they're introducing where they sleep, which is in a hallway. This is the barracks where all the lower deckers sleep, and there's like people coming in and out of the shower, and apparently it smells musty even though there's no water. Which, I mean, it smells musty because people are sweaty and stuff when they go to the shower. They're hopefully not musty when they come out of the shower. It seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah.
It also this probably smells like right guard because when I was in the military and we shared bunks like this, it always weirdly smelled like the way the gym smells, which is not particularly bad, but it smells like a very specific kind of male cologne. And I'm like, why is everyone but me using this?
That's not what they give you automatically and like everybody gets. But
no, they give you a bar of scentless soap, of course.
Yeah. I will say the one thing that I didn't remember is that this view is right next to where they sleep. So that's pretty cool. Like, I might sleep in a hallway if I get to get up and look at that every night. That's pretty awesome. That
is true. That's a really, really awesome shot.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those details where you're like they've obviously gotten to the point where they've just completely forgotten that's even a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you forget that? That's such a great just view right there.
Yeah.
Like I would stand there like every night before bed. Like how would you not do that?
Again, going back to my military service, I was an air traffic controller and we had a full 360 window view and it got old real quick.
Yeah.
When something is normal can become boring.
Another small, just lovely detail is that's the back of the ship, which we never see. Picard never looks out the back of the ship, even though that's where the ready room is. We still never see the warp core going that way. So it just kind of shows that, they've got this beautiful view, but it's definitely the worst of the beautiful vistas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This
I
is
feel
the
like
butt of the vista.
I feel like that view would give me less motion sickness than always having the stars go by in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
If everything's like going by to the side, or
there's lots of things in Star Trek.
Yeah.
There's lots of things in Star Trek that would make sense if they did it the other way, but it's definitely established that they don't. So this is definitely a thing going, even though this is the better view, which I do agree with you on, it's definitely meant to be the worst of the beautiful views.
Yeah.
And these are a little out of order. So what I did want to point out that Boimler does get to go to the warp core in the holodeck. That's his happy place. That's where of all the places you could go in the entire galaxy, he wants to go to the warp core of this California class.
I like the sound of warp cores. I can understand it.
Yeah.
And it's an impressive piece of machinery that I wish we understood and could use today.
Yeah.
I love the concept of I love the concept of them like using the holodeck technology to just visit another part of their own ship.
Yep.
Which I think was the point of Boimler's a nerd.
Oh yeah.
This is the weird part. Like normally I'd be self-conscious with all these anecdotes in my own life, but this show is like specifically for the things that I like, because I have done everything you're seeing here. I've put great effort into making a simulation of every warp core, and then I've gone and I've looked at every warp core. Because just the background, if there is some random person watching this, I'm a VR specialist. A simulation is my jam, professionally and personally. I love it. I have gone through and I have made my own player for nighttime that you push the buttons and it plays whatever warp core sound you want to hear while you're sleeping, and it projects that version of the space up on the ceiling so you can sleep, and it's like bloop 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 bloop, whoom whoom whoom. I have literally done that, and I have also made simulations of places I actually am in the simulation, and then gone to visit it more than once actually. So it's just like I'm like I want to go see the simulation of the warp core. Let's go look at just the yellow lines in the holodeck. I want to go there.
Yeah. Honestly, like you could go and you can mess it up in the holodeck if you want. That's kind of great.
One of the reasons I like simulations.
You're not supposed to touch this. I'm touching it.
Oh, that's 100% true. It's one of the reasons I like simulations rather than the real thing. You can mess with it and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Truth.
I've been to simulations of the holodeck, so let that sink in for a second. Multiple versions of the holodeck I have been in, because I want to be in that yellow-green grid, and sometimes I want to be in the crisscross of the Voyager holodeck, and I've made simulations of the simulation machine.
That's fair.
And I think it's funny how this screen that I've got right now, how the still is currently being censored by our faces.
Let's keep that censorship for
Well, I think we should show cartoon butts on YouTube. That's fine.
I have all kinds of opinions on how the holodeck and the sexual stuff actually works, if you guys wanted to get into details. But I will say that, she passed the boundaries. She did not get consent to do this when she did it. And that is a boundary pass that she should not have done. I'm not talking about how sex works in the holodeck, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm saying, how does privacy work, and how does intellectual property work in the holodeck? It's something we'll probably get into eventually, but this isn't cool.
I mean, it's kind of it's really violating Tendy's boundaries, because she doesn't know what Tendy's boundaries are. But I assume that these are constructs; that these are not based on real people.
Yeah,
I think they probably are, but we'll.
But it's like for me, like, like earlier you guys were saying, like right after the first scene, you were all like pro Mariner, and still at this point, I am not in that camp. Like, the fact that she's like, I'm going to use this so that we can see naked, sweaty guys. Like, it's just like, what? Like, and this is why I'm still like, okay, we're still in like Rick and Morty, like, humor levels at this point.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Also, the nudist noodle to pick Jim. Anything can happen.
But either way, it's still like, hey, instead of doing the thing we're supposed to do, let's go on the holodeck and let's look at naked guys. I'm not saying it doesn't fit her. I'm just saying it's still very Rick and Morty-ish, and I still don't like her.
I forgot.
It's also maybe it's part of the mask that she's wearing to keep her as an ensign for now. Like kind of shit you do to get yourself in trouble.
Drummed out for this. This is not appropriate. This is the equivalent to me loading up porn at my office and showing it to the new guy. That's not cool. I just forgot about it, James. It's true. This is another scene. But in my defense, this scene is so short. Even though it's worse than cutting off his artery, even though this is worse, it's so short that I can just like, what are you talking about? What naked?
It's a cutaway.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about it.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you brought the full screen up because that drawing of that guy is terrible. I never noticed that before.
Which one?
The orange one.
Orange guy? Okay.
Yeah.
It's not good. Maybe it was drawn under protest.
I don't think I would want to work out naked at all. Like, even if it feels like too many things could get pinched.
No, you guys were defending that you can cut a major artery and it's fine. So no, you just run a light over it. It's fine.
Some innocent testicular torsion. That's fine. Just wave a light over it.
You need a sick bay because I got weight plates on my nads.
I'm not over.
That's not anything you want to.
If you're getting testicular torsion while you're doing an exercise you could do with pants, you are not doing that exercise correctly.
I am going to bring it back a little bit and go like, yes, this is not cool. I'm not condoning this at all. But the reason why she did it was to push her new friend away. She's not trying to make friends. She's not trying to be close to people. She violates Boimler's boundaries because he's fun to pick on and because she wants to push him away. She's violating Pendy's boundaries because she wants to push her away. Yeah. And she's doing this on purpose. And as we go through the season, you can see it a little bit more.
Yeah. But I can in good faith point out these two moments that are literally too far that she would know, and that she's also pushing me away.
That's also
the show has an obligation to me as a viewer to not put me in places that make me feel uncomfortable. And honestly, this makes me feel just as uncomfortable as the artery scene. They're both, but to me, they're both like way past the pale. Like you cannot do this levels, and she should be fired completely for both, for sure. I just forgot about it. What's that?
There's, when you're talking about character arcs, you always introduce a character that has things that need fixing, and she's definitely got a lot of things that need fixing about her. The question I would have for you is there enough in this episode to show that she is redeemable and that she has some great qualities, and she just needs to go through, a character arc of her own, and we'll get to see that.
I have an answer for that if you guys don't mind me doing it first. Only if I ignore these two completely over-the-top scenes. If I ignore them and pretend like they never happened, then yes. If not, then no. But I know that she's fine after this. She does not keep doing this, so I'm just going to chalk it up. You should put it up behind me.
What do you think, James, as having seen this for the first time and being... There we go. Nice.
That's wallpaper that we made ourselves over on what's it called? Spoonflower. And I keep meaning to put it in my background. I need to do that.
I mean, for me, like I said, at this point, I still don't like Mariner as a character. I feel like over the course of the episode, she does start to kind of like at least. They establish why she's acting this way, and she does start to kind of like somewhat like redeem herself. But at this point, I'm still just like, I'm more like Team Boimler than anything else. So yeah.
Plenty of opportunity for character growth in the future, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, so then we cut down to we actually get to see the bridge crew a bit. We cut down to the planet and what's going on there. And it's kind of your standard, second contact is what they're calling it. And they're just kind of dealing with these guys. And of course, it's funny, the still that I got for this has the insect over there on Steven's head. It's actually going to bite Ransom. It's just flying around in the air. It's flying around the air. He's about to smack it on his neck, but that's where it landed.
This is a brilliant first test of just a kind of a generic Starfleet problem. I really like the way they did it. You can always do zombies again, and it doesn't feel like it's played out. So this is a nice introductory to how the lower deckers are going to react to real problems.
And I knew immediately like that was going to be a harbinger of something for her.
that was Chekhov's bug. Oh wow! It's just like
it is. Well, you're not supposed to. Like he's talking to the guy, and then he just kind of slaps himself, and they're still talking.
That's fine. I'm sure that's fine. And even he says when he gets back on the ship, he's like, "Oh no, it's fine." And then they go and they be broskies for a little bit, which this friendship has a journey as well.
Okay. That we can't talk about, but it is funny to see him. So all we're saying, James, is that it is funny to see the fly land on him first and have him in the background. It is good.
Yeah, just remember this scene. So then we get Boimler's called to the bridge. He's super nervous. He has to stand there. Ransom's like, "What are you doing? Why are you not at your post?" And he's called in to talk to the captain. Which is the first time we really see Captain Freeman in any kind of details. First time she gets a speaking. First time she speaks, which well, again, that's kind of nice. Get through like half the episode before you talk to the captain.
Right.
So anyway, she wants
also giving time for the captain is also.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. She has a pretty good scene here, and she wants Boimler to narc on Mariner. So he's not. Yeah, for reasons, of course, but he's obviously not too happy about it. But he's going to do what he's going to do because he's a Starfleet Gold Star boy.
And what is she doing if not the same kind of inappropriate boundaries? So it is not exclusive to Mariner that people sometimes abuse the policies to get what they want.
And we don't have to worry about spoiling the rest of the episode. If anybody's watching this with us and they haven't seen this episode yet, then that's a problem. But obviously, yes, we know that she is Mariner's mom, and they share these boundary issues because she's right now kind of using the system to kind of get back at Mariner.
Well, and it's kind of like interesting to me that like at no point before the final scene is it ever established that the captain is her mom. Like you would imagine that would come up at some point.
Yeah. They held on to that for the entire episode, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool reveal at the end, honestly.
It would not for me. I knew it on sight. I don't know why. Like I said, the show just vibes with me so well. But obviously.
Well, I mean, technically, as far as like the characters in the universe are concerned, like at least at this point, like even they don't know. Like we know because we see the conversation, on the video screen, but the characters still don't know that that's her mom. So, yeah.
I love her hair, by the way.
I like that one little gray streak in the middle there. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So then we get into Rutherford's date, which, oh man, I can't remember what her name is now. Is it Brahms or?
I don't remember.
Like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Little extra cannon. She's got spots on the back of her neck, which I don't think we ever saw Jadzia have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Her name's Barnes. Which they do a little like a meet cute here, and so this happens.
Yeah. They go full zombie.
Ransom goes full zombie as predicted because as soon as you get bitten, something's going to happen. And it's like, and that was it's very effective. Like they're having a nice date there, and it's like, oh, I'm glad nothing happened to interrupt this.
I like it because if we got the impression, if we were actually following the bridge crew, then there would have been this wouldn't have been a surprise. We would have seen him not feel so good, and the music would have been ominous and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that does point to the point of view that we have here. We're getting bits and pieces. We're getting the B story of what you would see from the main cast. So our B story is our A story, and our A story is our B story.
Yeah.
Just pointing out how tastefully done that is. Like that.
Yeah.
That's legit. It's not. I'm not reading more into the text than there. They actually wrote an adventure that was actually pretty compelling, and then just didn't tell you about it instead of it.
Exactly.
Instead of it being a flippant joke, which Rick and Morty would have done. Oh, those guys are stupid. They don't know what's happening, and like it wouldn't have. They do know what's happening, and they are on top of it. And sometimes things do go off the rails for the bridge crew.
Or rather, from the way that they handle it, things go off the rails often, and it's just a Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. So we follow, and I think in the future I'm going to do less slides because, wow, we got a lot to talk about. And we can talk about these slides. We're very good at talking about Star Trek. Imagine that. People who wanted to start a Star Trek podcast are good at talking about Star Trek.
That's just crazy talk, man. I don't know where you got that from.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it? Not me. So yeah, Mariner's kind of skeptical of Boimler already because he's doing something he doesn't want to do, but she knows what's up. She knows him. Meantime, we've got Barnes and Rutherford having more of their little meet cute as the zombie apocalypse is happening on the ship.
Yeah, to the point where they're like trying to actively ignore what's happening, as if this sort of thing happens all the time.
Yeah,
and they're like, really, like while we're on the middle of our date. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, because nope. Yep.
Yeah.
Tuesdays just be like that,
Yeah. Oh, I love this freeze frame of this person in the foreground. It's like, oh, man. Yeah, that's nightmarish.
That dude on the left has your hair.
That's true.
Another cool thing about the purpose limitations they've given themselves is that they have clearly fully modeled the 10 Forward Lounge, and that's the only place they ever go. Like they could draw anything, they really could, and they purposely don't because they're like, we don't have a standing set for that, so you have to use the 6 standing sets we have in the show.
On the one hand, yes, and on the other hand, I would hang out there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not like I can go to a different like internet cafe or something. Like that's where you go.
That's true.
Just saying, it's fun. It's fun that we're going to be in this room a lot, and it's going to be covered in blood more than you would expect.
Yeah. I did like the joke about going back to Tendi finally made it to sick bay. She's working in medical. She hasn't been in the sick bay yet, but she finally gets to sick bay, and the guy that she was supposed to assist is the guy on the table. Nurse Westlake. I'm just trying to find Nurse Westlake. Well, he's right there. And she's like, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. And he's like,
while she specifically is tightening down the straps. Like, that
can't wait to work with you.
You're so precious. She's so precious.
Yeah, I am curious about James's opinion on this doctor, and I'm curious if he'll be surprised to learn that she is not a parody or over the top in any way. She is 100% Starfleet medical. There is nothing weird about her at all, and I'm just curious if you knew that and what you think about her in general.
Well, I mean, it was interesting to see like a cat person, this early. Yeah. I vaguely remember cat people from the original animated series. Forgive me for not knowing their alien name, but
they're Cations. Cat's Cations. Kind of easy to remember, at least.
Yeah.
Catians with an I in it.
Cat Nations, Cations.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But like her personality, kind of reminded me of who was the doctor on TNG, like the original doctor.
Oh, you mean you're probably thinking Pulaski. She was like, first was Crusher, then Pulaski came, and then
that she gave me like Pulaski vibes for sure.
Fair, yeah, and Pulaski, of course, gives you Bones vibes.
You gave her
and I agree with that. I think that she very much is Bones like. Her demeanor and her just no dealing with that bullshit.
If you gave her a sedative, she would be just like Tig Notaro on Discovery.
Oh yeah, and I was thinking that earlier.
Even though she
Mhm.
delivers her lines differently, she doesn't do it with passion. That character is always like, okay, so we're gonna, yeah, the guy you're supposed to meet is on the table. So are you gonna save his life? Or are you gonna complain to me further? That's the way she delivers the line, but it's the same. It is the same line and the same attitude. So
Mhm. Yeah. And we do get to see more of her as the season goes on. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, like Boimler straight up pulls a gun on Mariner because he thinks that she's doing some shady shit. Like because he really like the
She's
words of the
doing some
captain. She's doing some shady shit, but not as shady of shit as she thinks that he thinks that she is.
It wasn't as bad, but it was still not
Yeah.
up to
This
code.
is like, this is like, stealing paper from your office supply cabinet at work. This is not like, providing weapons to a foreign power.
in a post-scarcity society as well. So she's stealing paper from an infinite paper drawer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nobody's going
Also,
to miss
I
that.
do have to point out the Argo behind her. When that kind of vehicle first came out in Star Trek Nemesis, I hated it. I don't remember if we were on camera when I mentioned it, but I do like it when Star Trek gives me something and I hate it, and then they do it enough times. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I like it now. Kind of like these shirts. So with the Argo, if you do it enough times and you establish that people do drive around in go-karts as a regular thing, I'm like, okay, then my first take was wrong. Clearly, this is something people do. So I do love seeing that car in the background. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, they just keep on using it. Like when they first introduced it, it's like, oh, okay, here's a fun thing for Picard to get, to drive around on. Yeah. And now it's just like, oh, this is just how we do things. It's fine.
To fill you just super briefly on what's happening in Nemesis is that they used a shuttlecraft to drop off this dune buggy, but the shuttlecraft they used to drop it off was superior in every way. Like it was ridiculous how much better the thing they just got out of was for the task they were trying to do than the thing they ended up being in. It was really stupid.
But it was more fun.
Okay.
And the captain wants to go have fun and drive around in a dune.
I mean,
what's to stop him from doing it?
Then write your script that the anti-gravity doesn't work on this planet and beam beam the Argo down from the replicator right now, and then I won't be complaining.
It's not the same when you go to the holodeck and you load up the Fast and Furious holo novel. It just isn't. You got to do it on the planet. Yeah.
Don't even get me started on how stupid this is, because it's Captain Picard, the big dune buggy and beer guy.
Yes. He's your dune buggy enthusiast.
Yes. The guy that wears 19th century clothes and likes to ride a horse is definitely a hold my beer like tailgater. Okay.
Oh, I haven't seen Nemesis in a while. Was he like dealing with some shit that might have made him more inclined to be out of character? No,
he definitely was not. No,
he was older and was not taking himself as seriously.
Yeah, I mean Patrick Stewart wasn't. For real, Patrick Stewart said, "I won't do this unless I drive a dune buggy." It wasn't like an ultimatum kind of thing, but it was Patrick Stewart's idea. He wanted to do it, and he pushed the writers to put it in.
Yeah, so I could tell.
I said I didn't want to get into it.
Yeah, the joy in his face as he was doing that. That was not acting. That was just legit
which,
joy.
Again, is a good reason to throw me out of the story.
Yeah,
Patrick Stewart doesn't do comedy. Let's move on.
Yeah,
we will cover those things eventually.
Right. So obviously, they get into trouble down there because Boyms is very, free with his phaser. He almost shoots these aliens. He is so on the dole for Starfleet and the captain's orders, and they end up getting chased by this creature,
giant spider thing.
Yeah, and she's like, I know how to deal with things like this. You listen to me, and we'll do what I tell you to do, which is to take his pants off, and that's. It's like, really? How is this going to work?
I will say that this was I understood what she was doing exactly when she said it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is where we're going. All right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
No.
Comedic timing.
Like he should. He's been friends with her for a long time. Like he probably, shouldn't have been like, no. Like,
I don't think he's been friends with her for a long time. I think they've been coworkers.
That's fair. Well, he knows her.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think until the end of this episode that Mariner actually considered him potential friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They've been, he's been tolerating her and she's been fucking with him.
Yeah. What you guys are saying makes that first scene even more non-canon.
That's true. Yeah.
But I do have something positive to say here, really, for real. Like I said, this show hits all of my cylinders because men and women can be friends. They actually can. Because I was, me and my friend Annie started that company. It was never anything there. And I loved to see it in film, and they never do it. They never do it. They let them be friends for a little bit, and then maybe there's romance. So in this series, they're so serious about making them just friends, they take their pants off in the first episode. And I'm like, yes. Show me
how not this is going to be a romance.
And no, I'm absolutely serious. I love the fact that they did this, and I love that it was her idea, and I love that nothing's sexualized at all. Like we didn't get the camera pan across Mariner's butt or something. They're just in their underpants as they would be if they were
they're in like Starfleet issued normal underpants.
Yeah,
Starfleet issued underpants are blue actually. So canon mistake, Mike.
Hey, if everybody can get their own uniform, why can't the Cerritos get their own underwear?
Well, that's now a canon thing. I can't fight you there.
That's a canon thing.
Ever since the colorization of the cage, they've been wearing blue underpants. And this is the first time that they're not. But anyway, we get to see them both in their underpants as if they were two dudes doing dude stuff. This would work just as well if it was two guys. So I love it. I really, really do. And I'm not just making that up to fill something. The first time I saw this, I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very non-sexual, not even nudity, like, non-sexual skimpiness. But
they do sex later, so we know that this is
sex happens, not these two, but the sex does happen in the show at some point. Now, I will say that this scene where Boimler got gnawed on by this creature didn't exactly sit well with us.
This is another Rick and Morty thing right here. Like the fact that the spider only ruined Boimler's uniform, not Mariner's. Yeah. And then he spends like 2/3 of this episode just being sucked on by a giant space spider.
Yeah.
It was just like, way to go, Jerry. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I read it differently than you guys did. This is like if you've never been to Earth before, and there's a great big dog, one of the big ones, right? But that where if you argue that evolution isn't real and that bears and dogs aren't related, you see this dog and you start questioning things. That kind of dog, and you've never seen it before. I can run the joke for you right now. Why is it only sniffing me? Why does it keep licking my face? Why is it's on me? So it's a super friendly dog, but it looks terrifying.
It's more like it's humping your leg than just sniffing you, though.
Yeah,
like, this is something that like he's getting sucked in and out of this orifice,
right?
For a long time. He's crying at the end of it. It is not a good day for Mr. Boimler.
It's an alien. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I don't. You haven't changed my mind. I still think it's more like a dog, a really big dog licking somebody's face, and she's like, "Good, do that. Keep it distracted. Why I shut off the thing?" Like, and you're like, and it does not look like humping to me. It really doesn't.
No, but it is. He's literally.
It looks like
it's
a Brad, though. You're not wrong about that. But Brad doesn't know this alien. So if you saw a dog licking somebody's face, and you're from a planet where licking face means something else. Mm-hmm. That's the joke. That's the joke that I read out of it, which makes it slightly less Rick and Morty. Always goes to the biological humor for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's all covered in slime and like he's in this very kind of like sphincter looking body part.
Yeah.
So it gave me more Rick and Morty vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you, but I'm just making an argument where I didn't I didn't go there.
It's definitely, I can see how you could interpret it that way, and I can see how we could interpret it in a less favorable way. And I didn't even think about it like that until I watched it again today. So, that just goes to show you, like, I've seen this episode at least 2 times before this, and it wasn't like until now that I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, if unrelated circumstances make you naked and unrelated circumstances make you mauled by an animal, it could look a certain way to certain people, but I did not see it that way, and I still don't.
Okay, that's fair. Well,
this joke would have worked just as well had he not been inserted in something, but he was still naked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I was on board with this show from the beginning, and I knew it was like, okay, it's a little rough. There's some things that are not like, super my favorite, but yeah, and it did take Chris a little bit longer to get on board with it.
It's just interesting to me that I made such a big issue of those other scenes, but this one I still stand by. It's great.
Yeah, it's fair.
One of the only reasons you don't see people this slimy and this naked in the show is that it's really expensive in live action. In 90s P&G, to cover somebody in slime like this would have been prohibitively expensive. So
I mean, they still did it. Oh God, do you remember the Enterprise scene with the they were stuck in the cave, and it just straight up looked like they were in ejaculate?
No. Oh, that one, the Enterprise. Sorry, I was thinking Enterprise D. See, which is something that they do on this show all the time. Which Enterprise?
Yeah.
And it was expensive,
TOS,
and they probably didn't throw any of the aliens in that goop, because if you throw Taurus in that kind of goop, it's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah. All right, so back to the Rutherford and Barnes, trying to take care of business on the ship, and and it's like I didn't.
So just want to jump in here because they are masterful with their phasers as they're running through these hallways.
Oh yeah, no.
The joke is supposed to be that the joke is supposed to be that they're not, worthy of being on the bridge, and these two are just taking zombies down left and right.
Yeah, we can answer that question for you, James. Phasers do not miss.
Well, they do miss a couple of times, but
no, there was a time Cisco's friend left for something. He left Starfleet, and Cisco set up a grocery bag, a paper grocery bag down with his uniform in it. And the guy pulled out the phaser and shot the grocery bag, and he was 6 inches from Cisco. And it was like, how did the phaser know? That is crazy. So that's been well established that phasers are super accurate, and the people who use them are also accurate. You're missing once out of 10 times on Star Trek is a canon thing.
And also that also kind of goes to show that even though they're lower deckers, they're still Starfleet. They're still well trained.
Yeah.
There's not really fuck ups. There's one or two every once in a while. But they still have all this Starfleet training, and they're actually professionals, and they're good at what they do.
Another fun thing. Anybody that's been through the academy is baller. That's actually an established canon fact as well. But one last thing about phasers is that they are really accurate, but very poor at actually doing what they're supposed to do. So if you set it to kill, it'll knock them over, and they'll limp. You'll shoot them dead center in the chest. You'll send energy through their heart, and then they'll limp away. So that's the downside of phasers, but the upside is that they are super accurate.
She and I don't know why I didn't get the clip of her kissing him, but then she kisses him, she pushes him up against the wall, and then he's like, "Oh, wait a minute! I need to find out what's going on with this door. Why didn't this door do this block thing like it was supposed to during Red Alert? This is so weird."
I know people like that.
Yeah,
I mean he's an engineer through and through. Even with a pretty girl on his face, he's like, "But wait, that door's supposed to open. Why didn't it open?"
That just bothers me too much. It just sounds funny. And
I did that just today. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The spots on the guy's face, I was like, "Why isn't it there?"
Yeah,
not just how to fix it. Why isn't it there?
Tindy's having a fun time in sickbay. I didn't remember that this was Stevens. Like, this is one of the main bridge crew guys that we get to see throughout the show, and I forgot that he was the one that had his heart pulled out, and she was manually pumping it for him. It hurts when you pump my heart.
And in the background, they've got two people tied to the same chair.
Yeah, they're tied together. I mean, they're eat each other, right? It's like the zombies won't eat each other. I want to know what happened to Stevens that his heart had to come out of his chest and be pumped manually.
Right. I just now realized that this is an unrelated emergency.
Yeah.
It was like Parisi squares.
In the middle of a space zombie breakout, he had some sort of like heart attack or something.
He wouldn't play Parisi squares and he got injured.
Life happens. Even
maybe somebody has a joke stabbed him in the heart with a
I mean, he's like he's an old an older JG type person. Maybe he got in a fight with a Nausicaan. So back to poor Boems getting removed from the orifice. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, my bones.
Oh. Yeah. I'm having a no bones day. Yeah.
That's where the Tindy and me comes out. That's when I go, I was almost eaten by a monster.
Yeah. So they get up and the doc actually figures out that there's something about the goo on him that can solve the problem and can end the zombie apocalypse on board. And so they have I thought it was great that Shax is carrying Boimler like that.
Oh no, Shax is. Can we have a moment of appreciation for Shax, because he is a fantastic character. Like, absolutely, he doesn't do a whole lot in this episode, and I recognize that, but he is. No, hands down, he's my favorite Bajoran, and there wasn't a high bar, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he's got the con nipple exposure.
But he is the kind of guy that runs into that kind of action. So, actually, you happen to have a still that was one of the ones released on like Entertainment Weekly before the show came out. This was one of the stills we got to get a feel for what the show was.
It's a good one, yeah.
It
pretty
is.
representative. I like
well, and like one thing that I thought was interesting is like when. Like the scene that leads right up to this, like when they realize that the slime, can cure the zombie virus, like the captain, because like I think it was like Mariner, like earlier was saying, like they don't care about you, they don't even know your name, and the captain's like, not protect Boimler, but protect the slime. Like she doesn't even
get that slime into the sick bay.
Just the slime.
Like, my bones.
It's very telling of how, like, Mariner's right. The bridge crew don't even know the lower deck schemes. They're just people.
And that's actually the bridge crew has a place to start from too, to grow as characters, which is pretty nice.
I wish I had an excuse, but I just can't. Okay, no, go ahead. Why not?
Oh yeah, she was like, "Hey, that's funny."
What's this stuff? Bleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is exactly the kind of thing I like with my Star Trek solutions, because it makes 100% sense that the Space Horse would have an natural immunity to the Space Horse fly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what's happening. It's just
that's true.
Nobody on the planet's a zombie, so it's actually just reacting with human physiology and making them a zombie.
Yeah.
And then it's mutated enough that it mutates to everybody else. People on the planet don't have to deal with this because they all have a natural immunity.
Right.
I think that's pretty great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. She's like, "Oh, goo. Let's check it out."
Yeah,
oh, wait a minute.
Weird goo.
I like weird goo. So they do use the goo to cure Ransom, Which, his first words, I think it was great. It's like, did I eat flesh? Like a little bit.
Like, how much did I eat?
I mean, maybe he ate the whole into Stevens.
Yeah, maybe.
He probably did. Come to me, Captain. I love you.
Shout out to the voice actor again. I did not realize that was Jerry O'Connell for way too long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
When I saw his name in the credits, and then like heard this character, I was like, oh, that's him. That's him right there.
Yeah. Just
I didn't. I really didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like his character. We'll get into it as we go into further episodes, but yeah, they really flesh him out in a way that I like.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously they aerate everything, send it through environmental controls, and then that cures everybody pretty quickly. And I liked this still too. This is the still I'm using for our thumbnail for this episode of the podcast. I think this is awesome. And then and Tendy's like, and Mariner's like, oh, you had a hell of a time today. You sure you're still excited about being here? And Tendy's like, yeah, I got to hold a heart.
yeah. She's still all in. She's still loving every
Even with
second
how
of it.
crazy it is. Even with how crazy it is, amazing things still happened today.
Yes. Like you wouldn't have been able to hold a heart if you stayed on Orion.
Boimler was on his 5th planet.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
He'd only been to 5 planets, including Vulcan and Earth.
Boimler Boimler saved the day, and he wouldn't have saved the day had he not gone on his misadventure. So I feel like that they all remember this. So later on, it's I'm not saying they call back to it, James. I'm just saying later on they learn how to roll with not just being lower decks, but being on the show lower decks. Like there's a way to get things done in epic fashion, but you have to do it. Well, let's call it the Rick and Morty method. You have to do it the cartoon way to get what you're after. Because all Star Trek characters are a little bit meta knowledge, like the same way superheroes are, right? Superheroes know that they have to land like this, otherwise it's a problem, right? So the Starfleet guys know that too. They need to make certain friends. They need to say certain things. They need to put certain goods in the scanners because that's the way the world works, and they do kind of understand that enough. Well,
the one final detail from the episode that I found to be just really endearing was when Tendi asks Rutherford how the date went, and he tells her that about the door issue, and she's with him. She's like, yeah, how do you not worry about that? Why wasn't it working? And like that, it was just like, okay, like Tendy's on my side. Like I was with Rutherford with the door issue.
Rutherford clicked too. So that was pretty good.
That was a nice little scene just between those two characters.
Yeah, great.
And at no point is any of this enthusiasm punished. Like,
right?
No, absolutely
don't
not.
invite me to your party and then make fun of me, guys. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I guess go ahead.
I was going to bring it back because I'm going to defend Mariner. And yes, she did not act appropriately. But at the end of the episode, you see what she cares about. She cares about the people. She doesn't care about the rank. She doesn't care about the bridge crew. What she cares about is actually helping people. And when she saw Brad do that for her, that's, I think, the first time that she saw him as a potential person rather than just coworker.
I'm with you.
Yeah, just like a button.
Well, right, because he also doesn't tell the captain like what happened, and when she finds out that he didn't sell her out, then she's like, okay, you're cool.
Like you didn't do the thing to get a promotion. You did the thing that was actually the right thing to do because it happened to save the crew and got no credit for it.
Yeah. So I definitely, like by the end of the episode, like I started to come around on Mariner, but it took a long time.
That is valid, and that is the part of the journey.
One of the ways I can skip over it is because I literally don't count those two scenes as canon. And I never realized it before. I was like, what is there to overcome? That never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. It never happened. Because in that way, if I do that, it's great. It's a perfect character arc. Otherwise, she should actually be drummed out and never be allowed back in, no matter what she does. So those are my choices. But that shot each thing is actually pretty brilliant because I went back and I watched that episode again. It was one of Picard's better moments, and that's saying something. That was one of Picard's better episodes, and he was worth shot each, which meant I am your Samwise Gamgee. Like, I am your Chadich. I'm not fucking around. So I love the fact that in universe that is something that she would say, and I'd forgotten all about it until she said that, and now it's part of my lexicon.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that.
It's pretty great.
It's almost as if
Chadich. Yeah.
And shows that she, even though she's like out of the world, she does actually know things about culture. She does know things about different things. She was drunkenly spinning a batleth around in the dream that didn't happen according to Peter, but she was spinning a batleth around and not dropping it and not stabbing herself, and like she knows what she's doing.
Well, I'd argue she did fuck it up, and she did not mean to stab him, and totally did. But so the version of Mariner that you're suggesting is the kind of Mariner that never did that. So I'm glad I'm going to bring you on to this never happening.
Before we get any further on this, I know we do have some things we want to talk about before we wrap up. But let's take a quick break, and then once we get back, pick up with the rest of the episode. I know there's two more big bullet points that we wanted to hit, right?
Yeah. We should wrap it up, but if we want to take a break before that.
I do. Before we take the break, just want to say that, like, you know, at this point, just having this episode and nothing else, I am not fully sold on this show. I will, of course, be watching it because we're doing this podcast, but I'm not on board yet.
An ominous thing, because I don't think it's going to get any better.
I disagree.
I have hope.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's the best show ever, but
13.
There's a journey.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I put this episode as like a 5 out of 10. Like, it was just very average. Like, I didn't come away from it like feeling like I was a better person. Like, you know, so I'm not sold. I want to be turned around. I want the show to grab me, but it did not happen in episode 1.
That's a good way of saying it for this.
That's a solid, like, it was okay. So
This show does make me walk away feeling like a better person, because it's basically saying, you know, all that shit you think about all the time for no reason, you're right.
Yeah, sure.
We're just going to canonize all your ideas.
All right, so let's take like 5 minutes and be back.
You want to just keep it running while we do that, Nick? Is that
I'm gonna take our video off, but I'll leave us running.
Okay.
All right.
I was gonna say,
it still says live though. Is that okay?
Yeah, we're still live. Like, you'll be heard. Like, anything you say will be heard. But I just put a basic logo on so we can, run off and do what we need to do and come right back.
Okay.
I have.
I do want to say something though. We have gone way over time. It makes me almost want to break this into 2 parts.
That's true.
Because this is like we apparently have a lot more to say than we did.
Yeah, we do.
And that's fine. But coming back to the second half of our bullet points next week or our next show might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, that's fair. But we still need to. Yeah, we can wrap it up together. I guess we can. Yeah, if you wanted to wrap it up more quickly, like, I figured we could blast through those last 2. But yeah, you're right. We do have more to say about that stuff.
Or even the other bullet point important. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
Now I'm back. I'm actually ready to wrap it up. I don't think we need much, but I just wanted to take like a few minutes to explain why we're wearing shirts that say Lucid. We don't have to talk about the game any further than that. I just wanted to explain why that is, just in case anybody ever actually watches it. I think we're done with the episode, and as long as we just talk briefly about what it is we have in mind with that. Also, we have to address the spoiler. There's like 2 spoiler things worth talking about, but only for like I promise you like 5 minutes, and then we can be done.
That's valid.
Anything else can be brought up in the next episode.
Yeah,
That is also valid.
but obviously we need to have less screenshots for the next one. I mean, I was happy to talk about all the details that we did, but obviously this has like gone on way too long.
Yeah. But we're learning.
Yeah, we're feeling it. We're
But
feeling it.
don't
out.
forget the technical difficulties. Are you sure you're not adding that in as well?
No,
I don't think
it's been almost 2 hours since we started properly recording.
Oh, has it? I actually thought it was closer to.
Really? I was pretty sure that I paid attention to the time when we started talking proper, but
I actually thought it was a little bit later, James, but I know that you would have. I actually trust your judgment over mine. I thought it was a little later. I thought we'd been talking for an hour and a half.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised.
It's at least
this
that.
is how long I thought it was going to be. So I'm not surprised.
I'm
not wanting to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I'm not big into restricting it as we get closer. You know, we'll learn.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Nick. Did you have the headphones in the whole time?
Yeah, I was hearing.
Yeah,
okay.
so I just wanted to mention why we're wearing the Lucid shirts. Simply mention that it exists, and that's it. You don't have to talk in further detail about that.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we can, as a quick introduction of what we are, I can put a link in the description of this video.
I would skip it entirely if we weren't labeled. We're all labeled.
Right, we're labeled. So. Yeah. Just Chris is the odd person out with Ritos. Because the 4 of us are working on it, and Chris is, moral support.
If we did have time and Leo wasn't here, we could use Chris as our Leo and fill her in on how the game is going.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
But we're not going to do that because we don't have time. So I'm totally down with that. The only reason I bring it up at all is because we're labeled.
Yeah. And normally I wouldn't want to have this go on long enough for me to need a bathroom break. But I definitely needed one just now.
Well, it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes per person. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 at a minimum.
Yeah, I feel like our technical difficulties lasted a good long while.
Yeah.
And I had to keep on redrawing.
I feel like I just made like a mental note at a certain point when I'm like, oh, we're talking now. And that was more than an hour ago.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't, then I'm pretty impressed because we covered a lot in an hour.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident it's less than 2 hours, though. I think it'll be 2 hours when we're done, but I don't think it has been.
It's funny because as I was getting these screenshots, and you see, I kind of left out some at the end. I could have had this screenshot of like her calling him Chadich and everything. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I hope we have enough to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, like I was satisfied with how like in depth we got with it, but it just seems like it took a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, now we have established, what our rhythm is, what we can expect. We can lower the amount of screenshots that we can just, launch into our own tirades off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought so.
Okay, gotcha.
I thought
based on podcasts I've seen in the past, though, I think weirdly enough that if we had an episode or even a movie, we wouldn't actually go past this. Like it's weird that there's so much densely packed in Discovery and Lower Decks is what I'm trying to tell you because I think talking about a regular episode would take the same amount of time because the same beats are there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because they squeeze an hour's worth of content into 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually curious at one point because I had stopped the episode and I looked at the timestamp and I'm like, I thought this was longer.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is they're talking fast, the action is fast, they're moving.
Yeah, they don't waste time.
It definitely was very kind of like, just high energy like the whole time.
Just in case, for historical purposes, we are back. Camera's on.
Yes, we are back.
Talking about Star Trek Lower Decks once again. So
if we,
thank you for bearing with us on our first episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you really want whiplash, watch an episode of Lower Decks, and then go back and watch an episode of the original series, where they're like, "Oh my god!" And it's like, there's so much time. It's like it's the opposite. They took a 30-minute show and they stretched it out to 60 because it's like there's a light that's blinking on the bridge, and we have to see Spock's reaction, and then we go back to look at the light again. Then we see Kirk's reaction, and we go back to look at the light again, and it's been like 2 minutes.
About TOS fits in perfectly. I have no notes. Right. So we wanted to wrap it up. So there were 2 bullet points. Were we on the same page on what those bullet points were, Nick? What did you have in mind?
Yeah. So basically, we want to explain what our Lucid shirts are about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that is because except for Chris has the Ritos shirt. But that's because the 4 of us are working on a VR game called Shuko's Sun. And I think I'll let Peter talk a little bit about that.
Shuko's Sun is just a VR game that the crew of the Lucidity go off on adventures. It is a holonovel, the same kind that is in Star Trek. So we have a story that we're trying to tell you with deep characters, rich dialogue, and adventures you can have. It's not a combat game. It's not based on that. It is based more on the narrative than anything else. So if you liked Lower Decks, you'll probably, if you are a Rutherford or a Tendi or a Boimler, you will probably like it. If you're a Mariner, maybe not so much. We just wanted, what we were hoping to do, assuming that we get our Star Trek enthusiasm down to a reasonable time, we want to take like 5 minutes out of every episode to talk about how the game is going, because it just seems like a good idea. And the game is going well. We just made our Lucidity shirts. These are our PT shirts for our crew, which I actually have to use. We have to cut this off by 11 because if I'm going to get my 5-mile challenge, I have to hit the road.
Yeah,
we get 3 miles in before the end of the night. But yeah, just I think I can do an update on the game, because I'll just update Chris on what's happening. We've got a new character creation system, so we can make brand new characters. And we have several that I've already shared on my Twitter, but I just got feedback from the crew in our weekly meeting that their colors are too similar. They look too much like the same guy. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to make them even more brightly colored. They're based on their evolution from frogs. So I'm going to go back and revisit those characters, make them more orange, at least one of them, more orange and more yellow. And then I'm going to start adding the main crew in, which I have not done yet, which would be Dan, Nia, and Derek Carroll. So that's where we're at. Yeah. Soon all the characters will be in, and they'll all be talking, but they will only have idle animations. And the next time we meet for this meeting, I should be able to tell you that the animations are finished and I'm moving on to the next part of the game. That part I'm doing all on my own, so it's only getting advice from my writing staff on that kind of thing. So that's where we're at, unless you guys think there's anything else.
To write down what the animation should be. Right. Shame on you, Peter.
Kim is actually, I forgot that you accepted. I thought for sure you guys were going to say no. Kim is going to go back through the script and she's going to make notes on what the animation should be for these characters, so that I can then go find
what everybody should be doing.
Right. Like what kind of facial expression or hands?
Yeah. If the answer is no, I don't have to read the script and think about what's happening in the moment. I can just go find the no animation without having to really think about why that's there, because she's going to do that curation and processing power to free me up to do it. But that's where we're at. We've got characters that do talk in our game, and we're moving forward on the prettification. The logic is done, and the prettification is happening.
And I think it should be stated that we have our preliminary voices. We have VR that actually works. You can interact with the environment. This game is becoming a game, and I'm very excited about
legit.
It's no longer just a concept; it's an actual thing now.
It is.
It is just a concept. It's not just a script.
And if you message me, I will send you a demo of the game if you can run VR on PC. Going forward, since this is the Trek podcast, we are looking and will most likely have at least one Trek actor do some voices in the game. So stay tuned.
Yeah. So once again, that's Shuko's Sun, a Lucidity holonovel. I'll leave a link in the description, so if you want to see more, once this has been up for a little while, give me a chance to do it. But I'll leave a link in the description if you want to see what our intro video looks like and maybe a little bit more from the game. But yeah, it's going great, and we're pretty proud of it.
Yeah. The next episode, assuming we talk about a half-hour episode within an hour, I will ask you if you have any questions about the game, and then you can ask stuff. But we don't have time today. We're just letting people know what the freak the Lucid is.
If you do have questions, leave them down in the comments.
Absolutely,
Nick, do you plan to remove this live stream and do an edit where you take out that break?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay, so there'll be a whole new video by the time that's up, and then that's where the notes will be.
Yeah. All right, so,
and we definitely have to do that YouTube thing of if you're interested in any of this, please like and subscribe so that we can.
Yes, absolutely.
We've had at least one person who is not us watching this. So
that's awesome.
Like and subscribe.
I didn't give anybody the link.
We will know. I did. I did. I
okay.
shared it out. I shared it to the Dragon Con Facebook. So
okay.
That's why I'm fairly confident we have at least one person watching it. So if you did, click like and subscribe. Unless you don't want us to know who you are, then create a burner account and then click like and subscribe. I plan to do this if anybody else watches it or not. That is legitimately the plan. We were inspired to do that.
Yeah.
But it would help to know that we'll let at least one person down if we don't do it.
Having this up, this is not going to be one of those live streams where, like, oh, if you missed the live stream, you don't get to ever see it. Like, I understand people have lives. Like, you could just leave this on in the background while you're, washing your dishes or doing whatever you need to do tomorrow. So I'm going to leave these live streams will be left up
at the end.
Huh?
Good advice to give them at the end of a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just letting them know for the future. By the way, do you know how many chores you could have gotten done while you were listening to us? Jeez, dude.
And on that note, I have to go do that chore. Where my PT?
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, man. So we will normally we'll have a spoiler section at the end of this, but we're going to skip on past that today.
We'll talk about it next time.
Are you itching?
We hinted the spoiler. All I want to say, this is spoiler. So stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. The steamed bananas were mentioned in Discovery in this newest episode. So either one of two things is happening. They have actually canonized Lower Decks, which is the most likely thing, or the guy that set up the gag for the steamed bananas, because he did it on purpose, did it as a reference to this thing. So either Lower Decks is a TV show in their universe, or Lower Decks is real in their universe.
I swear everything is canon, but
I know.
I don't know.
I believe it. I believe it, and it's awesome when it actually happens. Like I said, if you do it multiple times in multiple series, I become on board. So the steamed bananas is a canon. It's happened twice, meaning it definitely happened thing.
It's a very specific bug in the system.
Yeah.
That was the spoiler that I wanted to bring up. There was something about Picard I wanted to mention that was relevant to this, but I can't remember what it is now. So, Picard never took the time to smooch the pretty girl during the emergency. And they're actually taking the time. The whole season of Picard that's coming up is about why didn't you smooch the girl while you fought the cyber zombies? That is the whole premise of the show. So just bringing that up and mentioning that these things do overlap.
Yeah, but choices that you make in the middle of an grandiose consequences, but also that's your life.
Yeah, people are calling him on it. They're saying, "Hey, how come you never took the time to kiss the girl?" And he's always like, "I'm so busy." And they're like, "I know that's not true." So, it's just interesting to me, anyway, that these two things are overlapping. All right, now I'm done.
All right. Well, thanks for.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. If you got one more quip, let's get the quip in.
I wanted to give these all ratings, so I give this a rating of faith of the heart, and I think James gives it a rating of no faith of the heart.
Okay.
It's binary, James. You have to give it faith or no faith.
One or the,
Okay, then I give it no faith.
There you go.
All right.
I give it faith because I have faith that it gets better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So 3 faiths out of heart.
3 faiths out of 5 faiths of the heart. I love binary ratings at the end of these things. So I'm glad we remember.
All right. Okay, thanks everybody who watches the stream or the video in the future, and we're going to try to get some more of these out for you. So live long and prosper.
Indeed.
I can't do it with this hand.
Yeah. I always do the thumb wrong. I'm like, what is this? This probably means fuck you in Vulcan. It's like very simple, very, very small difference.
Bye guys.
See ya.
Bye.